Hey guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to go over what could be one of the most crucial checkpoints you'll ever learn as a hitter. Now, this checkpoint or position is something that your quote-unquote natural hitters get into. 9 times out of 10, that guy that you know that can just flat out hit gets into this position. Now, this is something new. I've never really heard this taught anywhere before, but it's something very prevalent among the highest of highest level hitters. And this is something very important that you're going to need to make sure you're looking out for as you're working through the straight arm release section. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, this position we're talking about here is called forward shoulder tilt. And what that is when we get into contact, if you remember from the momentum video, that's when this line that we draw straight through the shoulder sockets is tilted towards the infield at the strike, so at contact, and we're actually going to have a little bit of forward shoulder tilt through into our straight arm release. So the opposite of that would be either neutral or reverse shoulder tilt. So neutral shoulder tilt would be when these shoulders go into a neutral position where this line isn't tilted neither forward or backwards. And then reverse shoulder tilt, which is a huge problem among hitters that are struggling, is when these shoulders are actually tilted back behind them. And this might look kind of funny when I'm doing this, but I see this all the time with new online students, with in-person lessons, and even with some pro guys. I've seen them do that when they're struggling and they're trying to get to inside pitches, which we'll get to that here in a minute. Now, to be a high-level hitter or to have a high-level swing, you need to be synced up in your swing, and that's exactly what forward shoulder tilt allows us to do and shows us if we are or are not synced up in our swing. So the number one thing that keeps us from being synced up in our swing is flying open. So that would be having more of that reverse shoulder tilt at contact. This would be more along the lines of taking the body and pulling the bat into the ball versus taking the bat into the ball and letting more of the bat pull the body around and let that bat be the momentum of our swing. Now, two of the most common reasons why we see this among younger hitters or struggling hitters that are getting older is that when we're younger, for the first big reason I've seen is when we're younger, we're not nearly as physically strong. So for you guys who out there are younger and maybe you haven't hit that growth spurt yet and you don't really have the speed you quite need to get to, you really need to focus in on this video and make sure you're doing it right, because when you do get stronger and you do get bigger, this is going to be the equalizer that's going to make you more along the lines of that natural hitter. And what I'm talking about with younger hitters who aren't as strong, they really feel like they need to generate a lot of speed to get any kind of strikes on the ball. They feel like they need to use their torso to fire and because these are big muscles, they feel like they need to do that in order to get the bat around. And their arms might not be nearly as physically strong as your older hitters. And when we do this from a young age, we get thousands of repetitions in, and then we just get used to doing it. So even when we do get older and you already are a stronger hitter, you still might be pulling the body open in order to get to contact. Now, the second reason, I almost didn't want to mention this in my video because of just how prevalent it is in baseball, is when the second big reason of why we fly open is because of the instruction out there. Instead of telling us to swing, they're telling us to rotate. So this kind of gets into rotational hitting, or I'm sure you guys have seen it across any kind of hitting instruction, rotational versus linear hitting, anything like that, where they tell you when you go to the ball, we want to rotate. This is called rotational hitting. Rotate into the ball. Now that can be interpreted differently to a lot of different people, and some of these guys who think they're rotating might actually be in a good position at contact, and other guys who are rotating might actually be might have reverse shoulder tilt at contact. So I'll just say this right now, we're not going to get too far into it in this video, that rotational or linear hitting, those are not things. Those are simply titles put on instruction to say their style of teaching. It's not an actual fundamental to baseball. Every hitter is going to rotate. I've never had a hitter come up and just swing the bat and not do anything like that. If you're trying to hit a ball, you're going to swing and your body's going to rotate around. That's just the way it is. Maybe some people need to do a little more, a little less, anything like that, but you're going to rotate. I've never seen anybody just swing the bat like that. So, just to be clear, here at Pro Speed Baseball, we teach efficiency. We don't teach a rotational swing, or we don't teach a linear swing, anything like that. We teach efficiency, and that's what forward shoulder tilt is going to give us. It's going to give us efficiency, meaning the most amount of speed with the best chance for clean contact every single time we go to the ball. Now, how forward shoulder tilt relates and why it is biomechanically correct for the swing, it can kind of be related to throwing a punch. So if I was going to throw a punch, what I would do is I would get my punch started with my body, and then at some point my body would start to decelerate so that my punch could snap forward so I could get a lot of power. And you can see here, if I punch towards the camera, I'm going to want that power out in front of my body. If I were to throw a punch like hitters do when they're over rotating and getting into reverse shoulder tilt, it would kind of look like this, where, well, I didn't really decelerate anything, and I had nothing to slow down so that my extremity could speed up. And that's exactly what we want to do when we're hitting. Whenever we go up to hit, we're going to get into our load stride position, and as soon as we go to hit, our body's going to fire, and then at some point it's going to start decelerating, and then our hands and arms are going to take over and release it through the ball in an ideal world. And that's going to give us that snap. When the body decelerates, the end is going to speed up, and that's how you get efficiency. Also, it's much, much more efficient to go directly to the ball than it is to have almost two moves where the body flies open and then the bat comes through. With forward shoulder tilt, making sure you're synced up, your hands are going to go right to the ball. So let's go ahead and do one right here. Let's go ahead and take a swing. And you can see there, when we play back in the slow motion replay, that there's going to be forward shoulder tilt at and through contact. But let's not just look at my swing. Let's look at some of the top 10 all-time active best hitters there are hitting today.
Here we have Ichiro Suzuki, a lifetime .314 hitter with forward shoulder tilt at contact. And two of the slammin' lefty Joes, Joe Mauer and Joey Votto, Joe Mauer being over here on the left, both synced up perfectly with forward shoulder tilt. And here's Robinson Cano, which is probably the majority of my students' favorite hitter, and he has more moving parts than this robot dog and still gets into a solid forward shoulder tilt position. And last but not least, the number one all-time best active hitter as of right now, Miguel Cabrera, getting into a beautiful forward shoulder tilt position, which he does very well on a consistent basis.
So there, you see it for yourself. Some of the top active hitters getting into this forward shoulder tilt position. Now, I am extremely aware of the slow motion videos, the slow motion swing videos available out there that might contradict forward shoulder tilt a little bit. A couple things we need to understand about that is, I'll go ahead and I'll play a video here of Miguel Cabrera. You're going to see, you saw the video in the of him getting into forward shoulder tilt. Now you're going to see one here where he is making a swing, and he's actually pulling his elbow in and ripping the body open to get the barrel onto the ball, and he actually gets through this pitch very, very well. However, he's just simply mistimed this pitch and been an athlete. So what he did was he got a pitch on the inner half here. I'll actually show you from this view right here. He got a pitch on the inner half, and instead of getting into that nice forward shoulder tilt position at contact, he actually was late on it, ended up having to bend the elbow in to get the barrel inside because he's an athlete, and this is just, you know, a compensated swing so he could get the barrel on it. Did a good job of it, and because he's big and strong, he hit it a very long ways. And there's a lot of home runs hit this way. However, this isn't something that we should strive for in our swing. What we should strive for, and when we're hitting an inside pitch, is having the long leveraged arm, getting into that forward shoulder tilt position at contact and releasing through the ball. That's going to give us our most amount of speed. Anybody will agree, the more extended our arms get, the stronger we are and the more speed we can develop. So what I want to explain real quick before we get into how we get into this forward shoulder tilt position is the difference between the inside and outside pitches. And the only difference between the relationship at contact between an inside and an outside pitch is simply the timing that we hit the ball. If I hit an outside pitch, I'm not changing the relationship of my hands. I'm actually going to have a little bit more forward shoulder tilt. And if I'm hitting an inside pitch, if I go ahead and hit an inside pitch, you can see the relationship between my hands and chest did not change, but we're at more of maybe closer to a neutral and maybe a little slightly forward shoulder tilt position. But we have a whole nother video in the straight arm release section going much more detail on the relationship between the body and the hands at contact called Power to All Fields. So if you guys haven't seen it already, go ahead and check that out for further detail. Now, how do we get into forward shoulder tilt? How do we get into this high level position to know that we are synced up in our swing? Well, I wish it was as easy as saying you guys just do this drill and you get in forward shoulder tilt, but more times than not, that's not going to be that easy because we are, as you know, a lot of us at this point are very used to ripping the body open. So if you remember from the momentum video, we said there's two ways to move the bat through the zone. We can either move it by pulling the body through, or we can let the hands take the bat through. So what we're going to do is we're going to get you started to feel what we need to feel to get into this forward shoulder tilt position. But to truly get into it, you need to work through the progressions in the straight arm release section, starting with the no twist drills all the way through the release progression drills. So the bat, lag, pause, and release, and the release progression drills. So to get you started, what I want us to do is I simply want us to get into our pro setup, our load and stride, and get into your max bat lag position. Now, if we get into our max bat lag position properly, we can see that we have a ton of forward shoulder tilt here before the ball is released. Now what we're going to do is we need to think about our chest is going to be pointing directly at the ball. I'm set up for a down the middle pitch right here, and we want to leave our chest directly on the ball, and we need to let our hands, arms, and wrist move this bat through the zone. So this is going to really over-exaggerate our forward shoulder tilt. So we're going to get in that max bat lag position, and we're going to very easily just now allow our hands and arms to straighten out. You can see my chest hasn't moved, my shoulders haven't moved, and this might feel very, very funny to you guys at home who are used to ripping everything open because of how ingrained it is. I've had professional hitters come in who needed a lot of work on this, and I've told them to hit the ball and just keep their chest pointing at me, and they do this. And it takes them, you know, maybe 10, 15 swings before they can actually make a swing and hit that ball without rotating their chest. So if you can't get it the first couple times, make sure you just stay working on it. I'm going to go ahead and show you again one here from down the line. Okay, so we're going to load stride. We're going to get in that max bat lag position. Chest is pointing at the ball, and we're not taking that chest off the ball through the whole time. You can see I'm swinging very, very easily, and my chest stayed on the ball. Now, if you remember from the momentum video, if I start adding speed to that, that's what's going to start carrying me around. But make sure, for now, you stick to this very easy drill where you get in that max bat lag position, let your chest point at the ball, and then do nice, easy releases so you start to feel how the hands and wrists and arms are moving the bat through the zone, not the body. And guys, this is a very, very crucial checkpoint for your swing, a very crucial move to start learning. So get a good 200 repetitions in of this. Perfect repetitions where you're not counting it unless you finish your swing and your chest is still pointing directly at the ball. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get those repetitions in, work your way through the straight arm release, and we'll see you guys soon. Now, if you haven't already, head over to prospeedbaseball.com and check out our free lessons and our online coaching program where you can work one-on-one with me as your own personal instructor through unlimited video analysis. And stay tuned for a bonus clip at the end of this video of one of our membership lessons from the website. Thanks again for watching. Good luck with your swings, good luck with your games, and we'll see you guys soon. These are all symptoms to improper sequencing in the swing and not getting the right amount of extension at the right time, or where we want to make contact with the ball in relationship to where we want to be extended after contact. And that's the key one. We do want to be extended after contact. Just before full release is when we're going to get maximum velocity on that object. So in a baseball swing, so if we go into contact and we make contact and then we have full release, then we're going to be maximizing our speed into the ball. So that all you have to do is set up the drill properly, make swings, and you're going to start syncing up your swing right away. And that's exactly what this drill is going to do. It's going to help us learn the proper motions to hit the ball correctly. So if I put a digital tee here where we'd want to make contact with the ball ideally when we're practicing off the tee or we're hitting in the game, we're going to load stride here. You're going to see me get into contact here, and then if I'm still swinging out to this ball in front of me,